Today we're going to talk about all the things I wish I knew when I was driving myself crazy while dating, because the modern landscape in dating and how people treat each other is a wild. It's like, what? Are we animals? What is happening? My friends don't listen to me, so maybe you will. And I have an infinite amount of knowledge because I speed ran an entire adolescence knowledge worth of dating into like 3 years, because I didn't start dating until my late 20s. It was a very good mood for me, but I also missed out on a lot of milestones that you just sort of learn naturally as you interact with people romantically. And so I kind of had to teach myself that stuff. And in the beginning of my dating experience, it was really tumultuous. I was getting caught up in people. I didn't know myself. I was allowing my psychological wounds to dictate how people treat me. And that is not what I want for you. It wasn't until 2024, that was the most joyful year of dating I've ever experienced. I went on a 5-day-long date in Europe. That's unheard of. That's stuff out of a movie. I'm dating with detachment. I am not crying any tears over anyone's son. It is glorious. So in this video, I'm gonna lay out what I wish I knew going into dating if you are just starting to date. If you're new here, my name is Charlotte, and I make videos for people who want to get out of their own damn way. We talk about strategies and tools that can help you achieve the life of your dreams. So if that sounds like something you're into, please consider subscribing and leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about dating in general. What are your questions? I'm doing dating content all throughout February, and this is, I think, going to be the first or second video. So I really want to know, what are you guys struggling with? So I've split these up into sections. You can find the chapters below. First up, rejection and boundaries. You are going to get rejected, and you need to reframe rejection as a good thing. It is in your favor. You are going to be rejecting people, and people are going to be rejecting you. This is how the process works. You are not for everyone, and not everyone is for you. In the beginning of my experience, I would get really upset when someone rejected me because I wasn't actually thinking about whether or not I wanted that person or whether or not they were compatible. I was just thinking about getting them to like me back. And I think that's a very common way people enter dating. They want to see how many people they can get to like them back because they don't like themselves. They don't like what they're offering, and they're thinking, oh, if that person gives me this external validation that maybe I'm worth liking back, this will make me feel better. But that's not the end goal here. The goal here is to find someone compatible. This is about intentional dating. One thing that helped me realize this was, let's say you live in a major metropolitan area and you're looking for a man in his 30s who is single, and there's about 400,000 people who fit that description. Could you imagine if all 400,000 of those people wanted you back? All 400,000 of those people were knocking on your door, like blowing up your phone, trying to get your attention, and you had to pick one of them, or a handful if that's your thing, but that's not what we're talking about here. The point is, rejection clears the way for the person who is right for you. You want to be rejected because that means that that person knows what they're looking for, and they know that you're not it. And that saves you so much time. Rejection is redirection, it really is. And the faster you learn to reject people or deal with rejection, the faster you move on, and it's so much more peaceful, I promise. But what happens when someone is showing mixed signals? Mixed signals means they're not into you. If someone is sending you mixed signals, it is not an invitation to try harder. It is an invitation to move on. Frequently, what will happen nowadays is you will get mixed signals from people because they're not sure if they want to reject you yet. They kind of want to keep you around, right? And this is a very common thing I'll see. Like, we have this idea of putting someone on a roster or the back burner, and so they'll breadcrumb you, which means they'll just leave like little clues to get you to keep like coming back, and then they'll disappear. And you're like, where did they go? And this can be nefarious in that they're trying to keep you locked down, and just enough that if they poke their head back up, they're gonna, say, come here, and you're gonna come. So that, in that sense, that's sinister. But it could also be that they just sort of forgot about you. And that sounds really terrible. But when you're on dating apps, especially, there's so much volume of people that you simply like forget who you're talking to after a while. Doesn't that sound really bad? Yeah, that's what's happening. It doesn't always mean that they're like a narcissist, like whatever. It just means they forgot about you. And to me, if they forgot, then I didn't make that much of an impression, and maybe like it's just not worth it. Let's just leave that alone. Mixed signals, most of the time, mean no. In like 99% of situations, mixed signals mean they're not into you. And the next point I want to make is, people may like you. People may think you're cool or attractive. They may want to sleep with you, but that doesn't mean they actually want a connection with you. It doesn't mean they want to date you. It doesn't mean they actually want to be in a relationship with you. And it can feel very confusing because it's like, it feels like he likes me, Why do I feel like I'm being abandoned every time he leaves my apartment? Like, what's going on? It's because he doesn't like you that way. He likes you, just not enough to make anything go anywhere. And this is a very common human experience. You don't need to know what's going on in his head. You don't need to know why. It's not you. You're likable. You're plenty likable. You're plenty attractive. He's just not feeling it for whatever reason. And unless someone has explicitly told you that you've done something wrong, odds are they're dealing with some stuff internally that you can't figure out and see because you don't know them well enough yet. So do not internalize rejection. I beg you. Ghosting is rejection. Ghosting is them telling you they're not interested. You need that to permeate. If they're not talking to you, they don't like you. They don't want to be anything with you. It's painful, but the reason people ghost is because they just do not have the maturity to reject people outright. Another thing I want to say, it is very normal to go on a gazillion first and second dates and never get to a third date with most people. Like, I would say with 98% of people, you're not going to get to a third date because they're simply not compatible and you figured it out in the first few meetings with them. That is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's actually a sign you're doing something very right. You are moving on, you're moving the process along and you are saying no when it doesn't feel right. The last thing I want to say about boundaries is pay close attention to when you say no to them. It can be a little tiny no, all right? Like they say, can you meet me on Wednesday at 5 p.m.? And you say no. And they say, why not? Or they say, come on. Or they take no as a maybe or let me negotiate this. Run. When I was on dating apps, I would not give my phone number out to people I did not meet in person. I gave my phone number out when we were planning the second date. And I told a handful of guys, maybe 3 guys, like, no, I'm not giving you my number. And they unmatched me immediately. Do you know how much time I saved? Could you imagine, like, oh no, I'm sorry, I don't feel comfortable giving out my phone number to a literal entire stranger. I'm so sorry. And that to them was an affront to their pride or something. What they were so offended by that boundary that they unmatched me. Crazy. And don't be afraid to say no in the beginning to little things. As long as it's aligned with you. Giving out my phone number to everyone under the sun felt really wrong, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want random men to have my phone number. I once gave out a Google Voice number to a guy, and he was so offended by this boundary I set. And I'm like, why? He's like, I think you're a bot who's just looking for money. And I'm like, have I asked you for money? He's like, yeah, and sometimes they just like, they're sex bots. I'm like, but I don't want to have sex with you. Are you okay? You'd be surprised how much information you gain about someone in how they respond to you saying no to them or to you setting a boundary or not completely saying yes. Whereas like he's like, give me your number. I gave him a Google Voice number. That was not a complete yes. There was an intermediary step there. So interesting. Pay attention to that. Our next category, mindset and self-worth. Don't let people tell you that you are being too picky if you meet your own standards. People love to tell single people you are too picky and you're single because you're looking for a unicorn. And to that I say, then I'm a unicorn because every single thing I'm looking for in a partner is something I embody. I am the love I seek. So if you are looking for someone with money, have money. If you're looking for someone who is emotionally regulated, be emotionally regulated. If you're looking for someone who's disciplined in their pleasure, they don't go out and get drunk, they're not having crazy rowdy nights, be that person. Be disciplined in your pleasure. It's really that simple. And once you start to embody the characteristics that you're seeking in another person, you actually attract them into your life. It is very true that we attract the people who match our energy. So when people say you have to work on yourself and you have to love yourself, it is annoying. Like you're single because you don't love yourself enough. And like, I think that's a really messed up thing to say to somebody. But at the same time, if you want a relationship, a truly compatible relationship with someone, embody the person you want to show up as in that relationship. And it will be much easier to attract compatible people into your life. It's also very normal to be afraid of getting intimate and vulnerable with someone because you're afraid of being hurt. And to that, I say, in order to have a relationship with someone, you need to be vulnerable. You need to show a side of yourself that you don't show to everybody because this is that type of relationship. The way you deal with the fear of being hurt is by knowing that if it happens, you will pick yourself back up again. Every single time I had my heart broken, I leveled up exponentially. I rose from those ashes, phoenix and all. I did that. And I'm able to do that every time. And if you look back at your history, I think you'll find that you did it too. You may have had a slump immediately after the heartbreak where you felt like you were ruined and that you will never be happy again, but it's a short period of time and you bounce back every time. And so that is how you deal with the fear of being hurt. You deal with it by remembering you have always leveled up exponentially after every heartbreak. I have always survived that heartbreak because I'm resilient. And you are too. You also need to remember that you attract people who have the same or complementary psychological wounds. So what I recommend you do is, as you're dating and when you start dating, you need to pay attention and make known what those wounds are. Most people do not know what wounds they're walking around with. There's simply lack awareness. And knowing what you're struggling with is the first step to actually taking action, to fixing it, to making yourself feel like you don't have that gaping hole in you emotionally. If you keep attracting people who have unaddressed pain, please look inward, because there is something about your behavior that is attracting them to you. If you find that you can't stop thinking about someone, that means that they have activated your nervous system. So if you're texting a guy and then you're getting annoyed that he's not texting you back fast enough and you're preoccupied by him, you need to go get a hobby right frickin' now. You need to have something in your life that is not that person. I feel like most of us, we just consume media, we go to work and we talk to our friends, and that is not enough. You need to have a project. You need to create something. Learn a skill, learn a new language, go take a class, go volunteer. You are preoccupied by this person and you're pedestalizing them and you're waiting on them hand and foot. You should never, ever be waiting for someone to text you back. Unless you need an urgent answer to like, what are we meeting? What time are we meeting? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like you're having a cute little conversation and he left you unread for a few hours or days or something like that, and it's bothering you. That is a sign you are anxious or disorganizedly attached, and you need to work on that first of all. But in the meantime, get a freaking hobby, girl. If you find that you cannot stop thinking about someone, they have activated your nervous system. And so what I need you to ask yourself is, what is that person giving you that you are not giving yourself? What is that person doing for you that you are not able to do for yourself? Are they telling you that you're attractive and beautiful and that they would love to spend all the time in the world with you? Why don't you think that about yourself? When you are dating, I need you to remember that you have to be your first true love. They can't do it for you. So let's talk about emotional regulation. Don't reread text messages. This is not a novel. Go pick up an erotic novel. I don't want you to be rereading these text messages, okay? That's not what text messages are for. If you're rereading their text messages, you're fantasizing and you are putting them on a pedestal and you're creating a person in your mind that doesn't exist, okay? Don't do that. See them for who they are. That is very important, because your partner, even if they are the most perfect person you could ever ask for on paper, they're going to have flaws you didn't think of. They're going to have little things about them that you're not crazy about, okay? Because they're a human being. And when you start to do things like fantasize about them, when you don't actually know them very well because you're in the texting part of the relationship, that's when you get into limerence. That is when you start to pedestalize them. That is when they become something other than they're not. You have divorced yourself from reality in a way that is hurting you. Be careful. The other thing I noticed is that people will frequently date for potential. Don't do that. Date the person in front of you. And women will do this more often than men, I find. They will date for potential. They'll see like, oh, he could be this. He's going to get his money up. He's going to find a job. He's going to get healthy again. He's going to... And I'm just like, is he an adult man? Like, why isn't he doing that now? What's going on? And if he's having trouble in his life right now, why is he bringing someone else into it and complicating it? Because I do truly believe that your life should be in order before you start dating for keeps, right? Like sowing your oats and all that stuff is a different story. But like, if you are dating to find your person and you are still trying to figure things, like really basic things out, like how to live out, like having enough money to live on and like having a job and, you know, not punching walls when you're angry and like feeling okay most of the time. Those are things that your partner should sort of have down. And you should have down too. And whenever I say that to people, it's like, I don't want to put it on hold. I'm like, just because you don't want to doesn't mean you shouldn't. And I'm not saying that you have to be completely healed to date, because what we don't talk about is a lot of this healing work happens alone. That's true. You do a lot of self-reflecting, you figure out a lot of stuff on your own, and it really helps to go to therapy. But the other thing we don't talk about is a lot of this healing work has to be done in a relationship with other people. You can practice with platonic and familial relationships. That's that's helpful in a lot of scenarios, especially when it comes to conflict resolution. But romantic relationships are a whole nother ballgame. You have a different level of intimacy with this person than you do with your friends or your family. And a lot of your attachment style issues, if you have an insecure attachment style, has to be addressed in a safe environment with a partner. And it helps if your partner has a secure attachment style, but if you both have insecure attachment styles, you can still work on things together. It's just like, you need to be in a place where you're like, okay, I recognize my BS and I'm bringing this into a relationship with these communication skills and this ability to like work through issues with someone. And I'm looking for someone who may not have sorted out all of their stuff either, but is able to address what issues they have in a way that is not just being like nasty and not attacking and not criticizing and not trying to control. That is what you're looking for. You're not looking for perfection in yourself or your partner. You're looking for someone who's willing to make progress and to work with you. Your friends weren't on the date with you, okay? If you think somebody is not meant for you and your friends are like, but he seems so nice, he seems so perfect, like blah, blah. They were not on the date. They don't know. You do. If someone is not right, let them go. Don't waste their time. Don't be a time thief. Your friends really want you to find someone. Your friends want you to be happy and they're afraid that you're sabotaging yourself. And if you're being honest with yourself and you don't think you are, and you really have a gut feeling that this person is just not right for you, like you just don't have those feelings for them, let them go. Between you and me, you got towards the end of the video, you're going to see a lot of content on the internet about men sucking and women and all that. Like, don't get sucked into it. Please don't get sucked into it. Sure, yeah. Is there a lot of messed up stuff in this world? Like patriarchy and sexism and racism? Absolutely there is. I'm not going to deny that. But how does it help you if you think all men suck? How is that serving you as a woman? It doesn't. Because what ends up happening is you meet a man who's nice and he has a good job and he's not horrible, right? Which is not it's not a rare occurrence. They exist. But you think, oh, this is the best I'm going to do. Even though he's not compatible with you. It's hurting you. There's a lot of people on the internet who are very angry at the other gender. It's not serving you if you want to date. Okay? And if you're a dude, you're probably not, but if you're a dude who's watching this and you have animosity towards women, you also need to release that. All right? You need to release animosity towards the opposite gender if you want to date the opposite gender. And I'm sure you've had people hurt you in the past and you've attributed that to their gender, but I promise you, people in same-sex relationships have been hurt as well. It is not just the gender that is doing it. It is people. It's the human condition. We hurt each other sometimes. I know it's so tempting to say men suck, men suck, men suck, because yeah, they do behave in ways that are really, I think my face says it all. But how is it serving you? I want you to go back to you. I want you to go back to you. Okay? Yes, you have to be careful around like men for danger and all that, all those like safety reasons. Sure. Be careful when you get to know someone. That is why I say go slow in the beginning. If they're love bombing you, that is a red flag. And if you are allowing it to happen, that is a red flag in you too. Stop it. You can control how people treat you. In the beginning of relationships, especially. I understand like people will bring up like abusive relationships and all that stuff when I say you can control how people treat you. They're just derailing the conversation. In the beginning of a relationship, you can control how people treat you.